Welcome back to 90s week here on Final Fan TV. We're closing out 90s week, but don't worry, Thousands week is coming, and we got a couple games to talk about there. Final Fantasy 9, 10, 11, 12. A lot of good ones there, but let's close out 90s because Final Fantasy VIII came out in February 1999. Vinny. 1999, coming hot off the heels of one of the most successful games of all time, Final Fantasy VII. So, how does Square do it, man? Let's find out, Vinny. We have a trailer to look at. We have a preview from the official U.S. PlayStation magazine back in 1995. Might be 98, but we'll find out. But anyways, here, let's go take a look at a video. Let's take a look at this commercial. Here we go. Final Fantasy VIII TV ad. Let's check it out, man.
Coming this fall, the most anticipated action-adventure of the year. A story of one man's struggle to save mankind from extermination and his quest to win the heart of the woman he loves. An epic so stunning your emotions will stir, your heart will race, and your thumbs will be really, really sore. Final Fantasy VIII coming to a home theater near you. PlayStation.
And your thumbs will be really, really sore. Love it. I loved it, dude. Oh man, what a trailer there, you know. They obviously once again showing nothing but the full motion videos, which is cool. Cool with that. And your thumbs will be really, really sore. Dude, honestly though, this freaking trailer is hype, dude. Like, this advertisement is hype.
The most anticipated
Look at it, man.
adventure of the year. A story of one man's struggle.
This is hype.
Mankind from extermination.
I mean, we're going from driving cars. We're going to school. We're in space. We're in a war, a freaking all-out war now. What is happening? This woman has crosshairs on her face. She's aiming. She's shooting the gun. She's freaking shooting a Gatling gun. I'm sold on this game. I want to buy it now, and I want to play it now. Great advertisement.
And
you know?
it goes from saying, your race to save mankind from extinction, and then immediately goes into and a love story. It's like trying to throw every plot device at you in 30 seconds.
It was very, you could tell that they were kind of going for that same marketing strategy as Final Fantasy VII. You could tell, right? Like, they're throwing in, like, the same voice. I feel like it's the same voice actor. Could be. And then they're throwing in the story of, like, this drama, like you're saying, and then, like, love story. But this time it wasn't, like, the love that could never be. But now it's, like, earn the love, you know, like, find the love, get the love. All right, so let's go with, here's all trailers, or all commercials. Here's a Final Fantasy VII. I find this interesting since Drakey pointed it out previously. The Japanese trailers always feel like they have a different tone. So I kind of wanted to look it up and see what we got here. I don't know which one I'm going to click into. I have not proofed any of these, so let's find out. You know what I mean? All right, so this is Final Fantasy VII long version, Japanese trailer. It's only 30 seconds long. 83 there's the YouTube's channel that I'm getting it from. Just want to make sure. And then here we go. Oh my god. Fated will change. Oh, there's captions I haven't been reading. A Tale of Humans. I can do that guy's voice on the next one if you want. Oh wow, man, dude, that was. I'm not gonna lie, man. Final Fantasy VIII looks so freaking hype. Do you know what I mean, Vinny? Like, Final Fantasy VIII had so, like, that contrast, that juxtaposition between, like, freaking space battles to that love story, and you can even hear it in the music, right? Like, listen how it starts off with. I feel like it was cut off a little too soon, but here we go. and then it's cut. If these two did not meet, fate would have changed. A Tale of Humans. Final Fantasy VIII. All right, that's amazing, man. I'm honestly like I want to play 8 again. Like the trailer looks so good.
Vastly different marketing plans for, the Japanese trailer made it seem like more about the love story, and then the Final Fantasy VIII trailer in America made it, action, explosions, cars, women on Gatling guns, like it's just completely different.
Epic, yeah. I love that Magna Whirl says Final Fantasy VIII was so much better than 7, and there's no offense here. I'm not taking offense to it. Nobody does that.
Right. You like what you like.
That's amazing. Like I love to hear. That's why I love looking at people's tier lists. I love it so much because everybody has such a drastically different tier list. And I love to see the love for Final Fantasy VIII. You know what I mean? So really cool that Final Fantasy VIII is one of your top tier games. Really cool, and better than 7 at least. I hear you say. Not me. I'm quoting you. But let's take a look at this. This is PlayStation 2 breaking news at the top of it, dude. PlayStation 2's not out yet, but once we get there, man, because like PlayStation 2 kind of kicks off that, PlayStation 2 kicks off that 2000s era that we're gonna get to. But here's the cover. The year of the role-playing games, 13 new RPGs, an in-depth preview of Final Fantasy VIII. And to be honest, I think I read this one so many times because I remember this book. Like I just remember this cover so much. This is really nostalgic for me. Like, this is cool. Definitely read this one a lot. So we're gonna flip it open. Let's see what's up. We got our cover story preview on Final Fantasy VIII. This past series of the 90s, we've been doing reviews out of these magazines. I feel like it would be kind of cool to do a preview and get people's thoughts before the game came out. The way it starts off is great. All right. A sneak peek of what's sure to be the hottest RPG of the year. All right. Why you should care? Well, it's the latest in one of the most popular and critically acclaimed RPG series ever made. Those lucky Japanese. Those damned lucky Japanese. Since it was released last month, over 2.5 million of them have already bought and experienced Square's latest RPG epic, Final Fantasy VIII. We haven't been this jealous since Final Fantasy VII came out in Japan before it did in the US 2 years ago. Relief is in sight. Square Electronic Arts has already announced the domestic release of Final Fantasy VIII, expected September of this year, but for anxious RPG fans, that's practically an eternity. So, to try to ease the pain, here are details of our impressions from the first few hours we've been able to spend with the import version. That's interesting. It was slated for September, but didn't come out until February of 1999. So it must have got delayed. Using the same overall graphical style as Final Fantasy VII, polygonal characters on a pre-rendered backdrop, and all 3D battles... Okay, it is really blurry. I'm trying to... All 3D battles, Part 8 improves greatly on the same basic formula. Gone are the blocky characters of people, replaced with detailed and realistic models so that everyone looks just as good outside of the combat as in it. Okay, look, things are clearing up. Yay! It's finally loading in. Spell effects, lightning, and especially the animation. From people... motioning as they talk to monsters collapsing to their as they talk to monsters collapsing to their death, look almost eerily smooth and natural. The jump in quality of the FMV cutscenes matches these other graphical improvements as well. Imagine the images of Squall and Renoa pictured above smoothly. There they are. Nice. Animated within equally detailed environments, and you can only begin to get an idea of the truly feature film-like quality rendering achieved for this game. Even more drastically altered from Part 7 are Final Fantasy VIII's gameplay and combat system. First of all, there are no weapons or armor to be bought, sold, or equipped for your characters. Attack and defense ratings simply increase as you gain levels, and the one weapon you possess for the whole game is periodically upgraded. Anyone who's ever wondered why you win money in most RPGs after beating up a bunch of naked animals running around in the wilderness will be happy to learn that this does not happen in Final Fantasy VIII. Instead, you receive a regular stipend that increases as you progress. Magic points are gone. Instead, you use the draw command, as in to draw out rather than to sketch. This isn't Final Fantasy III, you know. To suck spells out of enemies and store them to be used for your leisure. Most enemies have at least 2 or 3 different spells you can choose to draw from. Special draw points are also scattered around the maps, much like save points, where you can stop and stock up on a few healing or attack spells without having to take them from enemies. As opposed to Final Fantasy VII's materia system, Part 8 employs, and let's go ahead and get to the next page. I hope this article ain't super duper long. But here we go. Yeah, it's going to end right here. All right, so Part 8 employs, I bet I can tell you what it is. The junctioning system. Wait for it to load real quick. Vinny, what are you thinking so far, man? A lot of changes.
You know, just changes from 7 to 8, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's because this is a review, so I'm trying to keep that in mind that the game isn't.
This is a preview. Yeah. So it's
a preview.
It's talking about the game like before it's out, and I thought that would be kind of cool because it gets that excitement of what the game's about. At the center of the new scheme are the Guardian Forces, or GFs. Just like summoning magic from earlier Final Fantasies, these are basically powerful spells that call upon a guardian to help out the party or attack the enemy. You may even remember some of them from the past games: Ifrit with his flaming attack, Shiva and with her ice spell, and the deadly Bahamut. Well, this time around, not only do the GFs cast huge and quite beautiful, might we add, spells, but in many ways they are almost like separate characters themselves. After a GF is equipped or junctioned to a party member, it gains experience points from battles, gains levels, takes damage, and even has its own hit points just like any other character. Having a GF brings so many benefits. It's practically a must that the player junction at least one. Characters need to equip a GF to be able to use items or cast spells, as well as to receive other abilities and attributes. For example, increasing that person's hit points or magic power. Another use for GFs in Final Fantasy VIII card game, minigame, which various people will challenge you throughout your quest. The basic game is sort of a combination of Othello and the card game War. Each card has 4 numbers, 1 for each direction: top, bottom, left, and right. The object is to take turns placing your cards so that they have a higher number on each side than any card bordering them. If you win, you can capture opponents' cards and keep them for future games. But by the same token, each time you play, you risk losing and having forfeit your own cards. Triple triad, guys. We know there's more, much more, to Final Fantasy VIII that we haven't seen yet. We're only 1 disc of 4, but it's already clear that Square is up to something very special. Whether all the new gameplay alterations will work within the overall game is still unclear, but we can't wait to play and find out more. Oh, and find out. There it is. And here's a few breathtaking scenes from Final Fantasy VIII. A step back in time with Final Fantasy V top right and Final Fantasy VI bottom right from the upcoming Anthology. So, yeah, Final Fantasy Anthology finally makes its way in 1999 as well. And if I'm correct, Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII comes out February 99, and then Final Fantasy September of 1999, that Final Fantasy V finds its way to North America in the PlayStation 1 bundle of Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI called Final Fantasy Anthology. In that bundle, Final Fantasy VI would technically be a re-release of Final Fantasy III for North American players, but now with the proper title of Final Fantasy VI. There you go, Vinny. Things are coming around for you, man. Things are starting to happen, but you know, the numbered entries are finally becoming universally correct. But it wouldn't be until 2000s before North America received every entry in the Final Fantasy series. Can you say FFTV's thousands week, baby? I'm excited for that one. So we've taken a look at Final Fantasy VIII here, this preview. What are you guys thinking? What do you have any memories of Final Fantasy VIII? I love that Magna World shared that Final Fantasy VIII was their like better than Final Fantasy VII. That's cool. I love that. You guys have any more Final Fantasy VIII stories? Any more there?
I mean, I remember.
I'm gonna bring out my Ultimania book here because I don't want to look it up. So I'm getting conflicting reports here, and I want to make sure I get it straight. Final Fantasy VIII. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Hey, nobody. Absolutely. So Final Fantasy VIII came out February 11th, 1999 in Japan. It came out in North America September 9th in 1999. So Final Fantasy VIII releases with Anthology in the same month. That's pretty interesting. By the way, these Ultimania archives are amazing. I love them. They're the English translated little bite-sized Ultimanias for you guys to check them out. And I'm going to go back to Final Fantasy V and make sure that's correct as well. And it covers all the way up to 14 if you get the whole collection. Yep. Okay, so wow, September 30th, 1999 is when Anthology came out. That's insane. I know I remember playing Final Fantasy VIII. I just played 7, and I'm just loving Final Fantasy, and I needed more Final Fantasy, and that's when I played Final Fantasy Anthology. And that's why Final Fantasy V sits so low on my tier ranking, because it wasn't fair. I had played 7, I had played 8, and then I went back to play 5, and I'm like, this is not working for me. I'm not feeling it. And I think I jumped over, I gave it some time, I played it, I beat it, then I skipped over to 6, not skipped over, but then I played 6 on the Anthology. I enjoyed 6, but it wasn't until I played 6 again on the Game Boy Advance that I really enjoyed 6. So it was, yeah, it's been like that, man. It's when you start with 7, go to 8, and then, it was a jump. So anyways, there you go, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this trip down memory lane as we have gone back to the 90s. And, yeah. What do you think, Vinny? Did you like that? Did you like that 90s week here?
Yeah, the layout was very nostalgic for me,
Right.
first of all. And then just going back and talking about like the Final Fantasies as I played them in the 90s. Also just brings back other memories of other games too. Nostalgia is a bittersweet pill, you know. So
yeah, Magna even says
I
that
miss those ads.
I know, right? I love the attitude, and I think it's only going to get better in the thousands, bro. I don't know. I feel like 90s definitely had the attitude and the edginess, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think the early thousands also brought it pretty hardcore before it started to fizzle out. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. I love the edginess of it. I love the console war stuff. That was like intense, and I mean, if you don't have the internet it's not that bad. Then you're just dealing with your group of friends. So yeah, I love that era, man. So yeah, even Magna World says that the music of Final Fantasy VIII made them interested in music and started buying albums, like video game albums, which is the music of Final Fantasy VIII it was really cool. So, we got a story from Magna. My uncle gave me a PS1, stereo, and MGS and Final Fantasy VIII. So there you go. Like Final Fantasy VIII and MGS coming out the same year. Loading up those games for the first time was absolutely mind-blowing and changed my life. Final Fantasy VIII and Metal Gear Solid had two of the most epic intros in gaming, and that is what got me into gaming. It honestly, yes. We made a video, our top 5 intros for Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy VIII was absolutely on that list. Yeah, I love the intro of Final Fantasy VIII. So, and it also came out at a time when I was going into high school or middle school, I believe it was. And yeah, man, it was hitting all the right notes, man. So there you go. That's been our 90s week here on Final Fantasy TV. I'm sure at this point you've already watched the Wheel of Final Fantasy, but check that out. That's going to be a 90s week theme as well. And yeah, there you go. Thanks so much for watching Final